Acting Speaker, I rise today to reply to the Premier's speech. And when I wrote this, I didn't know that the opposition were going to put through an amendment on the topic that I am actually going to talk about myself. So I must have been psychic when I wrote this. In February 2022, I find myself standing in this Parliament after having had the privilege of serving for the first year as the member for Kalgoorlie. When I initially nominated to stand as a candidate, as with any of us lucky enough to have this seat in the building, it wasn't an easy decision to take this path. It's the brave and the bold that take this path, and I can tell you with absolute certainty that there is nowhere else I'd rather be, under whose leadership that I'd rather be under than in Western Australia under the stewardship of the McGowan government. Is there a government in power in the world that isn't and hasn't been criticised by their handling of the pandemic? It's almost like the critics just sit back and dream up what they can pull out next each day. We have never ever experienced anything like this, but I don't need to tell anyone else in here today what it's been like. But I do want to relay what is happening elsewhere, so that we truly have a grasp of how COVID is impacting on our lives. There is an interesting piece that I found called Countries Who Handled Coronavirus the Best and the Worst, written by Beth Howell on the 3rd of February 2022. She said, "The novel coronavirus has crept its way through almost every country across the globe since the start of 2020, resulting in almost 400 million cases and almost 6 million deaths. Some countries have dealt with these chaotic months better than others. Lockdowns were imposed at different times, various strategies were considered, and restrictions varied in severity from government to government." Ms. Howell continued, "It's clear to see that time is everything when it comes to the pandemic. Countries that locked down early were able to manage the virus more effectively than countries that ignored the virus and are now suffering the consequences. As of the 10th of January 2022, 26 countries report that over 1% of their population is catching COVID-19 each week." She said, "I am also deeply concerned that as the variant moves east, we are yet to see its fullest impact in countries where levels of vaccination uptakes are lower and where we will see more severe disease in the unvaccinated. Take the example of Denmark," she said, "where Omicron cases have exploded in recent weeks. The COVID-19 hospitalization rate for unvaccinated patients was 6-fold higher than those that were fully vaccinated in the week over Christmas. For countries not yet hit by Omicron surge, there is a closing window of opportunity to act now and plan for contingencies. In summary," she said, "our overarching drive must be towards vaccine sharing, solidarity across age groups, sectors, borders, and political lines." Solidarity across political lines, and I'll come back to that later. Acting Speaker, I'd like to focus on how COVID has impacted us here in Australia. I'll start with New South Wales. In January 2022, consumer confidence fell to its lowest point since 1992, where Australia was emerging from recession. A survey of 2,000 members by the lobby group Business New South Wales found 40% don't have enough cash flow for the next 3 months. On the 30th of January 2022, the New South Wales Treasurer, Matt Keane, said, "We estimate that the cost to the New South Wales economy of Omicron outbreak has been 60% of that of the Delta outbreak. So it is having a huge impact on the economy, not as large as Delta, but is particularly being felt by some sections of the economy." He continued that the small business sector, retail, tourism, hospitality, and those businesses that ply their trade through face-to-face trading, like hairdressers and beauticians. Then the New South Wales Premier said, "The state government has always known people would die as a result of loosening COVID restrictions, after documents surfaced suggesting that the government had warned Omicron could lead to a spike in hospitalisations. The advice contained in a briefing written by the New South Wales Health COVID Critical Intelligence Unit was published on the 10th of December 2021, 5 days before the New South Wales Premier scrapped an indoor mask mandate and density limits on venues amid the surge in Omicron infections on the 15th of December. It was later forced to reverse that decision on the 23rd of December as the cases spiked in the face of the new variant. Unfortunately, we all witnessed how that decision has had an impact on the community and the economy. Let's move to Victoria. Westpac Bank has recently said, as COVID-19 case numbers have surged over the summer, bricks and mortar retailers have been hit hard by consumers trying to dodge the virus by largely avoiding the shops. But other businesses have suffered by the operational woes, including shortage of staff and stock. The Age said on the 30th of January that some aged care residents have been forced to go without showers and meals and had their wounds left undressed as Victoria's nursing homes face unprecedented staff absenteeism due to the outbreak. By the 30th of January, around 1,700 aged care residents were sick with COVID-19, compared to 400 on January the 7th. Staff infections have increased from 450 to 1,350 in that time. A Melbourne woman, Rosie Clarkson, said her mother had been confined to her room at a private aged care home for 2 weeks as the coronavirus ripped through the facility, infecting nearly all the staff and almost a quarter of the residents. It was like a war zone in there, she said. One staff member began to cry when she was talking to my sister over the phone. The staff were doing double shifts, no breaks, working 12 hours straight just to care for the residents. The City of Melbourne's recent survey found 3 in 4 businesses are struggling to survive the current outbreak. The survey found 74% of city business owners were barely surviving or under intense duress, while 53% aren't confident they will remain open for more than 3 months. Lord Mayor of Melbourne, Sally Capp, said the survey indicates business confidence is declining, particularly among the city's hospitality and retail sector. She said, "We know Melbourne businesses are incredibly resilient, but the Omicron outbreak is having a significant impact as people isolate or understandably take it upon themselves to limit their movements. It's clear the economic impacts of the variant are similar to those felt during lockdowns." We'll go to Queensland next. The Chamber of Commerce and Industry Queensland said on the 8th of February, 1 in 5 Queensland businesses reported a critical constraint on their ability to maintain normal operation hours or service delivery since December. They said many businesses are on their knees, and some have told us the Omicron wave has caused them more financial and emotional harm than the original COVID economic impact in Queensland in 2020. Now let's turn to what the Prime Minister has said lately. He said, "When I say we haven't got everything right, I was optimistic. We were all desperately looking forward to a great summer." But he continued, and one of the things we learned again is that the virus has a way of bringing you back down to earth. And we could have communicated more clearly about the risks and the challenges that we still faced. Omicron came and completely turned things on its head. This is the reality for a lot of Australia, and I'm sure we can all agree it's been pretty dire. And so to WA Acting Speaker, we are 2 years into this historic pandemic, and here we are getting constant carping from the opposition. When we wanted and needed unity and strength, they did everything they could and are still doing to polarise and divide. Did they want to open the border recklessly? Yes, they did. The member for Cottesloe recently joined families separated by the border at a Mourning for Morning rally. He boasted that he met with separated families due to the state's hard border on the day we were originally promised to reopen. saying, "The Premier failed in every aspect to prepare our state efficiently. 2 years mostly COVID-free in our incredibly prosperous state. He had all the luck in the world and none of the wits. Good grief, where has he been living?" Oh, that's right, he's in Cottesloe. "How has his life been affected so far from COVID? Not much, I bet. The same as the rest of the state. Let's look at the life we are living and enjoying. Have we been able to attend family gatherings, weddings and funerals? Yes. Have we been able to enjoy shows at the Fringe Festival? I know I have. Have we been able to socialise with friends? Absolutely. Have we been able to travel throughout our wonderful state? If we were lucky enough to get accommodation, yes, of course we have. A bumper season is what most tourism operators are calling this past summer. And businesses and the general economy, how are they going? With NAB's monthly business sentiment survey still recognising WA business conditions as being the best in Australia, as has been the case for much of 2021. I know in the goldfields we have had unprecedented growth. And what did the goldfields businesses community say when we updated the 5th of February border plan? Thank you, thank you, thank you. Here we are, having slowed the people coming into our state, slowed it right down so that we can manage the thousands coming through. I say to the Premier, to the Health Minister, to the Chief Health Officer, my family has appreciated your stance to keep us safe. My Goldfields community thanks you for keeping us well. My Goldfields business stakeholders thank you for keeping the economy strong. Of course, through the opposition critics, the Premier has stayed true to his goal to save people's lives. Overnight opening on the 5th of February to thousands of people roaming the streets would have infected the community and caused so many more deaths. No testing, no quarantine, no public health measures. It would have caused a flood of COVID across WA, a surge in hospitalisations and a result in thousands of people not being able to go to work or to school. The media in WA has been unrelenting of late. Somehow, the state government trying to slow down the spread by using a cautious approach is not acceptable. Instead of criticising every step from both the media and the opposition, it would be good for them to appreciate just how fortunate we are to be in a position to be able to adjust our settings, to put us in the best position to handle this new variant and to protect West Australians and the West Australian way of life. As the Premier said, if we can hold back this current Omicron outbreak, we will be one of the only places in the world that can achieve a high third dose rate before we reach widespread community transition, something worth striving for. We currently have 509 active cases, which for us is huge. But across Australia, there are 232,112 active cases as of yesterday. More importantly, there are sadly so many deaths caused by this COVID virus in Australia. I feel people are getting complacent towards the actual figures. When I say there are 4,618 deaths as of yesterday, it is awful. But I want you to look at this visual, and it's confronting. Behind each one of these figures is a family that is grieving, a family that has lost a loved one and left a gap in their lives. We need to remember this. We need to know that my government, this McGowan government, makes every decision based on whatever the community makes the community safe and the economy strong, and does everything possible to avoid a family dealing with a COVID death, and that is commendable. I am so proud to be part of this McGowan government at this critical time in our history, and I commend the Premier's statement to the House. Thank you.